Shalom, Auntie. All right, first off, I want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh. That's the name of the Father, and we do so in the name of Yahweh Shah. That's the name of the Savior, the Son, right? So Shabbat Shalom, everybody, right? All praises for today, right? And when sun goes down, it's the Feast of Dedication, right? All praises to that, right? We're finna get into that, explain that a little bit, touch on a couple other things. It's been a bug going around, so hopefully everybody is everybody in good health and good spirit, right? I'm getting over one. Oh, I was getting over one, right? But we here, right? So first off, before I get into the Feast of the Dedication, right? Before before I get into the Feast of the Dedication or whatever, I want to touch on a couple things, right? Well, we can just get right into it, right? Because we got our holy days, right? We've been going through the holy days. We've been going through the holy days. We start off the year, and actually the year finna we at the end of the year, right? And then this year start over. The first holy day is Passover, so we start off the year with Passover, right? Then we got the Feast of Pentecost or the Feast of Weeks, which is 7 weeks later, 7 weeks in one day, which is 50 days, right? And Penta actually means 50, right? Just Centa means 100. So Pentecost, right? Or the Feast of Weeks or the Feast of First Fruits. That's our next holy day. Then we got the blowing of, then you know, you got the summertime and all that. Then we got the blowing of the trumpets. Go to Leviticus 23. I don't want to get it wrong in the order. Scroll down, give me around like verse 25. It looked so the 7th month on the first day, that's the blowing of the trumpets, right? Offer made with fire. Can you scroll up a little bit? That's the harvest. Scroll down. Give me like verse 23. Salakia, y'all. Okay, so blowing of the trumpets, right? I just didn't read the whole verse. So the third holy day of the year is blowing of the trumpets, memorial, blowing of the trumpets, right? You hear that trumpet being blown, right? That's a message for all Israel to come together. You hear that horn being blown. That's you hear them I'm bad with words. When you hear them horns being blown, that means for us to come together, us as Israelites, right? That's the cue. So spiritually, if the Most High let you hear them horns, yeah, that's your cue to get around like-minded individuals such as yourself, right? But that's the third holiday. And then the fourth one is the Day of Atonement, right? So then you got your fourth Day of Atonement. That's, you atone for your sins, you afflict your soul, right? You got the Day of Atonement. Then you got the Feast of Tabernacles, right? It's the fifth one. Then you got the Feast of Dedication, which is at sundown tonight, right? And the last one to hit off the year is Purim. Those are 7 holy days we celebrate, right? Purim. 3 of them you got to go back to the land, right? 4. The 3 you got to go back to the land for is the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Pentecost, and Passover, Pentecost, and Tabernacles, right? We obviously ain't in the land, we in captivity, so we're gonna do the best we can, right? But here goes the next one, the Feast of Dedication, and so what we're gonna do, we're gonna get a little brief history on the Feast of Dedication, why it's a holy day, right? And then we're gonna go into the New Testament, so the Messiah keeping it, right? Then we're gonna liken it to a spiritual aspect, right? And then we're gonna touch on if anybody got some questions, they can ask that question, right? So boom. First verse I need to go to is First Maccabees. Give me First Maccabees chapter 1. First Maccabees 1, Give me around the 50th verse. Let me see what verse 50 look like. I believe it's 54. Scroll up to 54. Make 54 the top verse. The water. So this first Maccabees chapter 1, verse 54. It says, now in the 15th day of the month, in the month of Celius, in the 140th year, 40 and fifth year, they set up an abomination of desolation upon the altar. Right. So this is the history of the Edomites defiling our temple. Right. So boom. They set up abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idols, and builded idol altars throughout the city of Judea on every side, right? So we got the heathens, not only our temple, but also the holy city, right? And burnt incense at the door of the houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the book of the law, which they found, they burnt them with fire. So now they burnt the books, our books with fire, our scrolls, right? We at that time we was writing them on parchment paper, I believe. So they was burning our scrolls, right? Because parchment paper is actually lasts a lot longer than regular if you write it on a regular piece of paper. But they was burning our scrolls, right? Verse 57. And whosoever was found with any of the books of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king commandments was they should put him to death. So at this time, from my understanding from secular history, they was going door to door, right? Trying to see if you was keeping the holy days, trying to force you to eat pork and all this other stuff, right? So if you, at this time, if you had scrolls or you had books that you was following, you did what I'm saying, or they found out you was keeping the law, this is part of the Hellenization. If you scroll up to scroll up to the top of this chapter, so you got these people that was taken by force, and then you got these other Israelites. Scroll all the way up to the top, and scroll down a little bit. Give me 7 through whatever, verse 7 through. Give me verse 7. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Verse 11, right? So you see, we finna scroll back down, but in verse 11, in those days there went out of Israel a wicked man who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we've departed from them, we've had much sorrow. Now scroll back down to like 57. So you got those Israelites, they wanted to be partakers of Greeks. So they made themselves Greeks, right? But then you got in verse 57, it says, and whosoever was found with any book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was they should be put them to death. Now these Israelites was forced into Hellenization, right? They didn't do it by want. They did it by force, right? So boom, verse 57. So they burning our scrolls, right? Verse 58. Thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities. So they did this to every month to as many people as they could. It was their thing. It was a program. It was a movement. What they did, because you got to understand it was systematic. They don't want us calling ourselves Israelites. Like here in America, they don't want you calling yourself. They want you to call yourself American. It's a melting pot, right? All right, it's a melting. Okay, but America, it's a melting pot, right? So they want everybody to be American, right? When we went into our first captivity with Esau, he wanted everybody to be Greeks. Then when you get to the New Testament, they want everybody to be Romans. That's why Paul Even though he's an Israelite, he's still a Roman, just like us. We're still Israelites, but we're Americans. So that's where that comes from. Um, the Bible disappeared. So boom, verse 58 again. It says, thus they did by their authority unto the Israelites every month to as many as were found in the cities, right? Verse 59, now in the 25th day, right, of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God, right? So they sacrificed, and then they sacrificed all kind of abominations, pigs, and all kind of stuff, right? Up on the altar of the Most High, right? And they making it, therefore making it an altar of idols, right? Verse 60. And at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. And they hanged the infants about their necks, and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them, right? So they putting women to death on their circumcising their kids on the 8th day. So these people are not building gymnasiums and making themselves Greeks. These people that wanted to follow the Most High, but you know, those curses fell upon them in this captivity. And with Esau, the Bible says Esau furthered the affliction, right? So Esau didn't have to do all this stuff he did. He ain't have to do book breaking and nigger skin shoes and you know what I'm saying, all this. He didn't have to do that. You know, he furthered the affliction, right? Let's keep going. Um Verse 61, and they hung the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them, right? So just imagine they hanging these kids around these women's necks, right? As a show, right? Of their power, or as they did something shameful, right? As if they did something shameful. 62, howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. So you had Israelites that weren't budge and they're gonna die for this, right? Wherefore they rather to die that they might not be defiled with meats and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. And there were a very great wrath upon Israel, right? So that's the defiling of the temple. But the Feast of Dedication is the dedication of us getting back to temple and rededicating it back to the Most High, right? So we just wanted to get part of the history of the defiling the temple. And these are the Edomites. This is the Greek captivity. This is not the Romans yet. This is still the Greeks, and that's why the Apocrypha is needed, because you just jump from all the other slaveries into the Roman slavery in the New Testament, and you never have the Greek slavery. Well, this is the Greek slavery during the Maccabean dynasty. This is the Greek slavery, right? So let's go to First Maccabees chapter 4 to get the temple being dedicated. First Maccabees 4. I'm gonna need, give me 36 first. Verse 36. Verse 36, and it reads, then said Judas, this ain't Judas that portrayed Yahushua, right? Judas is one of the Maccabean brothers. Then said Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomforted. Let us go up and cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary, right? So this is the Maccabean brothers. Scroll down, I need verse 54. I'm gonna start pick back up there. Actually, let me read down to it. I might as well. Come on, start back at 36. And it says, so they finna go rededicate the temple, and upon all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up to Mount Zion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profaned, and the gates burned up, and the shrubs growing in the courts as in the forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down. So they see the temple in ruins, grass growing in places it ain't supposed to grow, not manicured. They say that's in the forest, right? And they rented their clothes and made great lamentation. Renting your clothes is like putting on a potato sack. Lamentation is like mourning, right? And casted ashes upon their head, and fell down flat on the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm and the trumpet, and cried towards heaven, right? So they make a supplication, they in mourning, right? Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary, right? So the if you ever seen the temple got like a wall around it, right? So if anybody come try to, break the wall, he had people to fight him while they rededicated and cleansed the temple. So he chose so he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleanse the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones to the unclean places. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profaned, they thought it best to pull it down, meaning to tear it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathens had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down and laid upon the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there shall come a prophet to shew them what to be done with them, right? So they took the stones out, right? And put them up somewhere, just in case they was somewhat holy, and they waited for a prophet to tell them what to do with them, right? But they took down the altar, right? There they took whole stones according to the law, and built a new altar according to the former, right? So built one just like the last one, that looked like the last one, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hollowed the courts. Hollow means holy, right? And hollowed the courts. And they made new holy vessels. And into the temple they brought the candlestick, the menorah, and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamp that were upon the candlesticks they lighted, and that they might give light to the temple. Furthermore, they set loaves upon the table, showbread, and spread out the veils, and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Celius, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning, and offered sacrifices according to the law. So according to the law, sacrifices are clean things, right? And offered sacrifices according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Now, here we go, boom. Verse 56. Look at what time and what day the heathens had profaned it, even in that it was dedicated with songs and with citherns and harps and cherubims, and all the people fell upon their faces and worshiped and praised the God of heaven, Yahweh, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days. So that's how long the feast of dedication is. It starts tonight. It ends, I believe, next Sabbath, right? When next Sabbath it ends, not when the next Sabbath begins. When the next Sabbath ends, the feast of dedication ends, right? So they kept I believe that's so. I'm gonna have to pull out a calendar, but I believe that's the case. So they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days. So it's not a weekly celebration, it's an 8-day celebration, and offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrifice of so the sacrifices of deliverance and praise. And they decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with the shield and with gates, and the chambers they renewed and hung doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathens was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the day of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Celius, with mirth and gladness. And at that time also they builded up Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers around it, lest the Gentiles could come and tread it down as they had done before. And and they set their garrisons to keep it. A garrison is like a military base, so to speak. And they set their garrison to keep it, and fortified Thurza, but fortified but whatever. If anybody can pronounce it better than me, come off mute and pronounce it. To preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea. Who is Idumea? Come off mute, somebody. Who is Idumea?
Esau. Edom.
That's right, Esau, Edom, right? So that who was protecting, defiling the temple, and that's who we got the temple back from, right? Now, with the temple, then now that's the holy day, that's the high holy day, feast of dedication, right? Now, give me, because it's a spiritual type of thing too, right? The temple getting rededicated, you rededicate yourself to the Most High, because that's essentially what all children of Israel that's doing, that's waking back up. We rededicating ourselves back to the Most High, reconciling. And that word re means to come back to, right? You can't do something again. You can't get repaid if you never were paid in the first place, right? So you to redo something is to do it again, to recompense, right? Or to rededicate ourselves, because that's what we essentially are doing. But give me Romans 12:1. Actually, before I get that, let me just get the New Testament. Let me show you how was I actually keeping this first. Give me John chapter 10, verse 22. John 10 and 22. So we got the Feast of Dedication, right? So let's show you how is I keeping it, right? So this John chapter 10, verse 22. And it says, and this a cut for people that don't believe in the Apocrypha also. So and it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication. You can't find a Feast of Dedication in the so-called Old Testament, right? You don't find it in the New Testament other than Yahushua celebrating it. So where do you find it? You find it in the Apocrypha in the book of First Maccabees, right? So John chapter 10, verse 22, and it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication, and it was winter. And Yahushua walked in the temple on Solomon's porch, right? I would just go to Google. Let me Google Solomon's porch real quick, right? Google Solomon's porch. Show you where Yahushua was at. Solomon's porch. And go to images. All right, scroll down to like the animated picture. Right there on the right hand side of the animated one, right there. So as you can see, you see the temple. This is the temple, right? And over there, well, the outer part of it is called Solomon's porch. So this is the temple, right? So Yahushua was at the temple. The Feast of Dedication is about the temple being rededicated. So it makes sense that he would be at the temple at the Feast of Dedication, right? So that's Yahushua celebrating, right? And now I can get into the spiritual aspect of, because first of all, we got our holy days. We coming up out of America. We coming out of society. We separating ourselves from the world, so to speak, right? Figuratively speaking, but that's what's happening. We separating ourselves from the world, and it's hard, right? But then the Most High gave us what we need to replace those things with the righteous things, right? Give me Romans 12:1. And I'm just gonna go through a couple of verses. And actually all I had, so this might so this Romans 12:1. It says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. That's your reasonable service. So we present our bodies as a living sacrifice and rededicating ourselves back to the Most High, right? Give me Zechariah 1:19. Zechariah. Yeah, Zechariah 1:19. Zechariah 1:19, it says, so it says, and I said unto the angels that walk with me, what be these, right? And he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. And I brung out this verse to let you know, like Jerusalem is a people, right? So Jerusalem being scattered, that's us being scattered. So with us being scattered, this whole spiritual aspect is like the temple was in heathen hands, right? And then this time frame happens where a righteous period takes over and the temple, because hold on, give me Acts chapter 7 verse 38. This will help me bridge the gap so what I'm saying will make sense, because we're the actual temple, right? 7:38. So this Acts chapter 7 verse 38, it says, this is he that was in the church, right? They say the church is a building, right? That was in the church in the wilderness with the angel. Give me one verse up. Give me verse 37. It says, Acts chapter 7, verse 37. This is that Moses, which said unto the children of Israel, a prophet shall the Lord your God, Yahweh, raise up unto you for your brethren, like unto me. Him shall ye hear, right? This is he that was with the church in the wilderness, right? So who was the church that was in the wilderness that Moses was with? Israelites, right? But the church ain't a building. These temples are Israelites, right? So we are the temple, right? We've been scattered, or we was in the heathen hands, particularly Idumea, right? So we're in the enemy's hands, and then it comes a period in this time, in this case, a grace period where the Most High giving us time to come back to Him and get ourselves together, right? In that time, you had the Maccabean brothers, right? Most High gave them a period of righteousness where they can rededicate the temple, because these people that was zealot of the Most High and zealot about His laws, right? So boom, that's the point I wanted to get. Give me Baruch chapter 4, verse 28. Baruch chapter 4, verse 28. Now with us waking up, we rededicating ourselves back to the Most High. Baruch 4:28, and it reads, uh, it says, give me, scroll up one or two more verses. I'll just read from 26. My delicate ones have gone rough ways and were taken away as a flock caught of the enemies, right? But be of good comfort, O my children, and cry unto Yahweh, for ye shall be remembered of him that brought these things upon you. This the point. For it was your mind to go astray from God. So being returned, seek him 10 times more, right? So we coming back to the Most High, we got to seek him 10 times more. Give me Baruch chapter 2, verse 28. And it says, as thou speakest by my servant Moses in the day which thou commandest him to write the law before the children of Israel, saying, if you not hear my voice, surely this great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations, whether I will scatter them, right? For I knew that they, excuse me, for I knew that they would not hear me because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves, right? So we're going to remember ourselves, right? We're going to remember who we are, come back to the Most High. And we got these holy days, right? We got these holy. Give me Zephaniah 2 and 1. Zephaniah 2 and 1. It's Zephaniah 2 and 1. It says, gather yourselves together, gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. Before the decree bring forth, right, the decree from the Most High, before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as a chaff, before the fierce anger of Yahweh come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you, seek ye the Lord, seek ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment, seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. And that's right. You seek the Most High, because just being honest, right? The Bible says, fear the Lord and keep his commandments. That's how you get saved, right? You keep the faith, you keep the commandments. You don't have to know all the breakdowns in order to get saved by the Most High. You got to do what he said do. He said, keep the faith, keep the commandments. You fear God, keep the commandments, keep the faith. That's how you get saved, right? And that's this the time we in. We rededicating the temple. You got people. This might not seem like nothing to nobody else. This might seem like foolishness to the next person, right? It don't seem like foolishness to the people of the Most High. The Most High, Yahweh actually said, "My sheep hear my voice." Right. So if you hear these words and these words mean something to you, and it don't mean something to the next person, hey, then they might not be the sheep that the Most, or it might not be their time to wake up. Either way, that ain't stopping you from doing what you supposed to do. You dig what I'm saying? Whatever you're going through, dust yourself out, pick yourself back up, and keep going. The Bible says the righteous man falls 7 times. You're going to get up 7 times and keep it going. This is not a sprint. You got to keep going. So we rededicate, we get all these holy days, the Most High replacing these worldly things. Give me Leviticus 23 and 2. He gave us feasts to replace this, the wicked stuff with, right? Leviticus 23 and 2. He says, speaking to the children of Israel, saying to them concerning the feast of the Lord Yahweh, which he shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts, right? Verse 4. It says, these are the feasts of Yahweh, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. So these holidays, these high holy days, these come around every year, right? We ain't doing Christmas. Don't celebrate Christmas, right? Celebrate the Feast of Dedication, right? Don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles, or the Day of Atonement, or blowing the trumpets, right? Don't celebrate Memorial Day. Celebrate the new moon, right? Don't celebrate Easter. Celebrate Passover, right? That's what the Most High giving you. He ain't say you got to sit here and twiddle your thumbs. You got stuff to do, but it's a lot harder, especially with us not having brothers and sisters. That's why holy communication. That's why it's best to get around like-minded brothers and sisters. Find you some personally, I believe you should find you a camp that bear witness with you. Because I pray me and my family get in one real quick that bear witness with you. Get yourself together and get in a camp. That way you will have somebody to, because let's just say you come across hard times, you'll have a brother or sister to lean back on. And that's what we need to, because we ain't getting up out of here with brother and sisterly love, right? We got it here through idolatry and being wicked and being doing all this stuff. That's how we gonna get up out of this, right? Coming back to the Most High, that's the idolatry part, right? loving our brothers and sisters, because if you don't give me the let me find this verse. Let me just find it. I can't even paraphrase it. Let me get it wrong. It says Slovakia. Give me First John 3 and 15. First John 3 and 15. First John 3 and 15. It says, and whosoever hated his brother, it could go up a couple verses. 15. Go up a little bit more. It gets the total point. Go up a little bit more. This point is okay. It does start it. I'll just start it now. Whosoever is born of God doeth not commit sin, for his seed remaineth in him, and he cannot sin because he is born of God, right? And this goes into not being under the law, right? So we're not under the law where adultery, somebody that commits adultery gets stoned, right? But we still keep the law. We're not directly under it, but we still keep it, right? Verse 10, and this the children of God are manifested, and the children of the devil. So this is the law lets you see who's who, right? Whosoever doeth not righteousness is not in God, neither he that loveth not his brother or sister, right? You gotta love your brother and sisters, right? For this is the message that you heard from the beginning, that we shall love one another, not as Cain, who was of that wicked one, and slew his brother, and therefore he slew him, because his own works were evil and his brother's righteous. Marvel not, my brethren, marvel not, my brethren, if the world hates you. It said, marvel not, my brethren, if the world hates you. We know that we have passed from death into life, because we love the brethren. He that loveth not his brother abideth in death. Whosoever hateth his brother is a murderer, and ye know that no murderer hath eternal life abiding in him. So, and this is according to the Most High, and that's how he view things. If you hate your brother in your heart, you're the same as a murderer in a kingdom of heaven on abiding, right? Hereby perceive we the love of God, because he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down ourselves for our brethren. We got to love each other to a point that we're ready to die for each other, and that's why that the whole camp thing is so important, right? Especially right now, because when I came in, a lot of camps are beefing with each other, and that ain't really happening now. And I didn't think this day was gonna come, but it came. And it's happening, and it's a beautiful thing. And all praise to Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shah for that. But yeah, you hate your brother in your heart, you the same as a murderer, right? And give me I already passed that point, but a revelation, I'm gonna just leave that where I said. Give me Sirach chapter 38. So that was my feast of dedication breakdown. I want to read this Sirach chapter 38, 1 through 15, because I was just sick, right? So I want to read this. And it's Ecclesiastes chapter 38, verse 1. It says, honor a physician with the honor due to him for the uses which, one more time, Ecclesiasticus 38 and 1. Honor a physician with the honor due unto him for the use which ye may have of him, for the Lord hath created him. For the Most High for the Most High cometh healing, and he shall receive honor of the king. The skill of the physician shall lift up his head. In the sight of great men, he shall be in admiration. The Lord have created medicines out of the earth, right? And we all know that. The Lord has so it ain't no Percocet, it ain't no fentanyl, right? Because fentanyl was created by the white man in the lab, right? It ain't none of that, right? We got stinging nettle, dandelion root, so on and so forth, right? So verse 4, the Lord Yahweh have created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them. Was not the water made sweet with wood, that the virtue thereof might be known? And he that shall give men skill, that he might be honored in his marvelous works. With such doeth he heal men and taketh away their pains. Of such doeth the apothecary make a confection, and that's what the profession is called. The people that mix the herbs and stuff and create these things for this and for that and tonics for this, right? It's called an apothecary. This has nothing to do with witchcraft. This has everything to do with the first verse, so like a physician or a doctor, so to speak, right? So verse 8 again, of such doeth the apothecary make a confection, and of his works there is no end. From him is peace over all the earth. My son, in thy sickness be not negligent, but pray unto the Lord Yahweh, for he will make thee whole. Leave off from sin and order thine hands aright, and cleanse thy heart from all wickedness. Give a sweet savor and a memorial of fine flour, and make a fat offering as not being, and give peace. And give place to his physician, for the Lord hath created him. Let him not go from, let him not go from thee, for thou hast need of him. There is a time when in their hands there is good success, for they shall also pray unto the Lord. And that's a good thing that you have an Israelite or somebody that, you know what I'm saying, that's cold in that, right? I'm kind of in the beginning stage, but it's some brothers and sisters, mainly sisters. I know a lot of sisters in the truth that's cold with it, right? So it's important for the person that you got trying to heal you praying to the Most High, just like you praying to the Most High, right? That's a beautiful thing. Verse 14 again. For they shall also pray unto the Lord Yahweh, that he will prosper that which they give for ease and remedy to prolong life. And he that sinneth before his maker, let him fall into the hands of the physician. Right. So I'm gonna leave it at there. I just wanted that. And then I got a couple other things, right? I got a couple other cuts. Because I had a dude tell me this week that all we supposed to do is celebrate. Says celebrate. Is the only commandments we supposed to do is the 10 commandments, right? He said Christ, he believed in the New Testament, and he said all you supposed to do is follow the 10 commandments. Those are the only commandments out the Old Testament you're supposed to follow. So I asked him this, give me a second. Christ said, give me 1 second. Give me Matthew 22 and 34. Let me see if that's what I need. Matthew 22 and 34. Oh, this is it, right? So I'm gonna start at we'll start at 35. 34. And it says, but when the Pharisees had heard that he said what he had said unto the Sadducees to silence, when he put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. And one of them, in which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him, saying, Master, which is the great commandment of in the law? And Yahushua said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And that's my command, point. This dude said, you're only supposed to follow the 10 commandments. Well, where is love thy neighbor as thyself in the 10 commandments? It's not in there, and that's proof that you got to follow all the commandments, not just no 10. There's nowhere in the Bible it says 10 commandments, right? To just do 10 commandments. That's a man-made idea, right? But thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Let's go to Exodus 20 and let's see if we can find it. Exodus 20, start at the top. So you got verse 4, you can't make no graven images above, well, verse 3, you can't have no other gods. You can't make no images that's above heaven, on the earth or the water beneath, and bow down to it, right? Where we at? Graven images, thou shalt not bow down to them. Remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy. Keep scrolling. Right? Honor thy father and thy mother, right? So that days may be long upon the land, which the Lord Yahweh will give thee. Thou shalt not kill me, meaning thou shalt not murder, right? You can kill a chicken and eat it, right? Somebody will come in your house that ain't supposed to be there, you shoot their ass down, right? It's a slocky of this. You can shoot them down. But that means thou shalt not murder, right? Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, right? Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Keep going. Or his wife, or his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that's thy neighbor's, right? And all the people are the thundering. Boom. Where is thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself? Because it's not in the 10 Commandments. It's actually in Leviticus 19 and 17, I believe. Right? Just get that real quick. Leviticus 19 and 17. And it reads, and thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. Thou shalt not in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon them. You see your brother or sister sinning, tell them to stop. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord Yahweh, right? So that's where it's fine. Love your neighbor as thyself, or love your brother as thyself, right? Or sister as thyself. You gotta love each other. We're commanded to love each other, right? Commanded, right? That's a commandment. And you break it, it says you're the same as a murderer, right? And then the second thing was unclean, right? It was so it said that somebody said that, oh, in the Old Testament, you can just divorce your wife for any uncleanness. Some Christian said this, right? So I just want to pull out these verses to show the ignorance in Christianity, right? He said in the Old Testament, Christ made it this way because in the Old Testament, you can just divorce your wife for anything, any uncleanness. Well, let's see what uncleanness is according to the Bible, and let's see if you can divorce your wife for these things. Go to Deuteronomy 24 and 1. Keep in mind, the dude said, you can divorce your wife for any uncleanness. It's Deuteronomy 24 and 1. When a man have taken a wife and married her, and it comes to pass, no, this ain't the verse. Go to Leviticus 12 and 2. Check this out. So it says, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if a woman have conceived a seed and born a man child, when she shall be unclean 7 days, according to the days of the separation of her infirmity, she shall be unclean. So if a woman has a baby, a man, like if she have a baby, she's unclean. So a man gonna divorce his wife for having his baby? No, right? they don't know what uncleanness is. They think uncleanness is a sin. Being unclean is not a sin, right? Because go to Leviticus 15:28. So like if the Passover was going on, right? It's a makeup day for Passover because if a woman, Leviticus 15:28, it says, but if she be cleansed of her issue, a blood issue, then she shall number herself 7 days and she shall be clean. If a woman come on a cycle, she's considered unclean. That don't mean she's sinning, right? When Passover come around, if she's on a cycle, she can't come because she's unclean. It's a makeup day for her. She go to that one, right? She did no sin. Unclean does not mean sin. Unclean equal does not mean sin. Does not mean it. Go to Numbers 19:11. Now I'm past I'm just want to prove that unclean is not sin, right? He that toucheth the dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days. He shall purify himself with it on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day he shall be clean. But if he purify not himself on the 3rd day, on the 7th day he shall not be clean. So if you go to a funeral, let's just say you touch their body, you didn't sin, right? But you just unclean for 7 days, right? Unclean does not equal sin. And that's where I land my plane on that. And that's my breakdown for this week. I didn't really have much, but I wanted to touch on the Feast of Dedication because it is tonight at sundown. I repeat, it's tonight at sundown. Today's date is on the Gregorian calendar is December 17th. So December 17th at sundown, 2022 is our Feast of Dedication, right? We do various things. We give presents to each other sometimes. It's not, to be honest with you, since it's close to Christmas, I don't suggest if you want to give somebody a gift or something, you know what I'm saying? That's fine. Don't wrap nothing up. Don't give nobody, just be careful with that, right? But we observe the Most High, right? Try to rededicate ourselves back to the Most High. You did what I'm saying, rededicate ourselves to this nation of people that we're building, because that's what's happening. The Most High is building the kingdom, right? And we are the citizens in his kingdom, right? So that's kind of the spirit you need to be in for this. And yeah, Shabbat Shalom. I like that. Shabbat Shalom. And with that, I'm finna end the recording. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh. And I do so in the name of Yahweh Shai. Shabbat Shalom. Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
And then I think I'm gonna have a special guest on next week too.